Sometimes you find the most incredible stories of hope right in the middle of what looks like a complete and total disaster. And that's exactly what we're going to look at today. We're diving into a story from the Bible where a nation's absolute failure becomes the setting for an unexpected and honestly a really powerful display of mercy. The whole story kicks off with this, just an absolutely devastating verse. 120,000 soldiers gone in a single day. And the Bible is crystal clear on why. The people had turned their backs on God. So that's the big question, right? How does a story that starts with this much loss possibly end with a message of incredible mercy? Well, let's find out. To really get what happened, how things got so bad, we have to start with the person in charge, the leader who kinda set the whole disaster in motion, King Ahaz of Judah. His choices are the trigger for everything that's about to unfold. And here's the heart of the problem. This wasn't just a small slip-up. King Ahaz, well, he systematically took apart his nation's faith. He wasn't just breaking some rules by worshiping idols and even doing the horrific practice of child sacrifice. He was totally rejecting the very foundation of his people's relationship with God. He was leading everyone, the entire nation, straight down a path to ruin.
And you have to get this. These weren't just some abstract spiritual mistakes happening in a bubble. No, this had catastrophic, real-world consequences for every single person in the kingdom of Judah.
Let that first number really sink in for a second. 120,000. Can you just imagine? An entire generation of defenders, of husbands, of fathers, just wiped out in one battle. That's the staggering human price of the nation's choices.
And the tragedy didn't even stop there. The victorious army then takes 200,000 women and children captive. I mean, at this point, the nation of Judah is completely broken. They have failed on every level, and the consequences are almost too much to imagine. But then, right here, at the absolute lowest point of the story, when it feels like all hope is completely gone, something totally unexpected happens. The whole narrative takes a sharp turn, one that shows us God's heart even in the middle of judgment. Out of nowhere, this one man, a prophet of the Lord named Oded, he just steps onto the scene. And what's wild is he doesn't go to comfort the defeated. No, he bravely walks right out to confront the winners as they're marching back with all their prisoners and loot. And he looks at this conquering army and asks them this piercing question. He basically forces these soldiers to stop and take a hard look in the mirror. He reminds them that, yeah, God used them to discipline Judah, but hey, you're not without sin yourselves. And that one question, it changes everything. And what happens next is just incredible. The army's heart completely changes. They don't just let the prisoners go. They give up all the stuff they captured. They find clothes for those who are naked. They give them food and water. They tend to their wounds. This isn't just releasing them. This is an active, compassionate restoration. They send their former enemies home with dignity. Okay, so what are we supposed to take away from this intense story? Well, the first big lesson is a really clear and pretty sobering one about the consequences of sin. Here's the key thing to understand. The disaster that happened to Judah wasn't just punishment for the sake of punishment. It was more like a severe mercy, a divine wake-up call to stop a nation from walking straight off a cliff. The idea is that God, because he's loving, will use discipline to turn his people away from a path of self-destruction. So how do we actually live this out today? It's pretty practical. First, don't get comfortable with sin. When you know something is wrong, turn from it quickly. Second, make it a habit to ask God to show you where your heart might be drifting. And maybe most importantly, learn from stories like King Ahaz's so we don't have to make the same painful mistakes ourselves. But if the story just ended there, it would only be a warning. The whole thing builds to a second, even more powerful lesson that really gets to the core of this story. Mercy finds us right where we are. And this is really the heart of the message. God didn't wait around for Judah to get its act together. Right in the middle of their absolute catastrophic failure, he sent a prophet. He moved the hearts of their enemies. He orchestrates mercy to find them right in their mess. His default position toward us, even when we fail, is grace. So what does that look like for us? Well, it means we actually let that mercy heal and restore us when we mess up. It means we, in turn, offer that same kind of radical forgiveness to other people. And it means we can trust God to rebuild the things that sin has broken in our own lives, just like he did for those captives so long ago.
So at the end of the day, after this dramatic story of catastrophic failure, stunning mercy, and powerful restoration, what's the one thing to hold on to? It really comes down to this single thought. No matter the mistake, no matter the failure, we're invited to stop trying to fix it all ourselves and just rest in God's mercy.